The universe is not outside of you. What you see out there, what you experience in your world is nothing more than the outpicturing of your own consciousness. Everything that exists in your world was first born in your imagination. Now let me share a story from my own experience. Several years ago, when I was living in New York, I found myself in what the world would call a difficult situation. Bills were mounting, opportunities seemed scarce, and the external world appeared hostile. But I knew then, as I know now, that what I was experiencing was simply the harvest of my previous mental activity. You see, my dear friends, the secret lies not in fighting against these circumstances, but in completely relaxing into the awareness of who you really are. And who are you? You are God Himself, individualized. You are the operant power of the universe, expressing itself as you. Let us dive deeper into this magnificent truth. When I speak of relaxation, I am not merely talking about physical relaxation, though that is important. I am speaking of a profound mental and spiritual relaxation, a complete surrender to your divine nature. The first principle you must understand is this. Your consciousness, your I am-ness is God. When you say I am, you are proclaiming the name of God. This is not a metaphor, my dear friends. This is the absolute truth of your being. Now, how does one truly relax and trust the universe? It begins with understanding that what you seek is already yours in the invisible realm of imagination. Whatever you desire, be it wealth, love, health, or success, already exists in what I call the fourth dimension, the dimension of imagination. Let me share with you a technique I have used countless times. I call it the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Before you go to sleep at night, assume the feeling that would be yours if your desire were already realized. Feel the naturalness of having what you want. Feel the relief, the satisfaction, the joy that would be yours. For instance, if you desire financial abundance, do not focus on the lack of money in your current experience. Instead, feel the feeling of financial security. Feel how you would feel if your bank account were overflowing. Feel the satisfaction of paying your bills with ease. Feel the joy of helping others with your abundance. The secret, my dear friends, is to persist in this feeling until it becomes your predominant state. Remember, your outer world must conform to your inner assumptions. This is law. Let me tell you about a lady who attended one of my lectures in Los Angeles. She was struggling with chronic anxiety about her future. She constantly worried about everything that could go wrong. I told her, my dear, you are creating your future with these very worries. Instead, why not imagine lovingly? Why not assume that all is well? I instructed her to spend her evenings just before sleep, feeling the peace and security she desired. I told her to feel it so naturally that it would be impossible to believe otherwise. Within weeks, her entire world transformed. Her anxiety dissolved, opportunities appeared seemingly out of nowhere, and life began to flow effortlessly. You see, when you truly relax and trust, you are acknowledging your own divinity. You are recognizing that the power that created the universe is not separate from you, it is you. Now let me share with you the deeper aspects of trust. Trust is not about believing in an external power. True trust is the absolute conviction that your imagination creates reality. When you imagine something, you are literally creating it on a spiritual level. Your only task then is to remain faithful to your imaginal act. Consider this every morning when you wake up. You trust that the sun will rise. You don't worry about it. You don't try to make it happen. You simply know it will. This is the kind of trust I'm talking about. An absolute knowing that what you have imagined must materialize in your physical world. Let me give you a spiritual exercise that I have found immensely powerful. I call it the Sabbath. Choose a time each day when you can be completely alone and undisturbed. Close your eyes and mentally declare, "Be still and know that I am God." Feel the truth of these words. Feel the power and presence of your own wonderful human imagination. Then, bring to mind your desire, whatever it may be. But here's the crucial part. Don't think of it as something to be achieved in the future. Instead, feel that you already have it. Feel the gratitude, the joy, the completion. Then, rest in this feeling. This is what it means to enter the Sabbath, to rest in the consciousness of your wish fulfilled. Remember, my dear friends, the universe, which is your own wonderful human imagination, operates by law. Just as a seed planted in fertile soil must grow, so must your imaginal acts bear fruit in your physical world. But you must give your seed time to grow. This is where trust becomes essential. After you have planted your seed, after you have assumed the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you must trust the law. Don't dig up your seed to see if it's growing. Trust that the law is working, even when you can't see the evidence with your physical eyes. Let me share another personal experience. Years ago, I desired to become a successful lecturer, sharing these truths with others. Instead of struggling and striving, I would lie in my bed at night and imagine hearing the applause of an audience. I would feel the joy of sharing these principles. I would feel the gratitude of those who understood and applied these truths. I did this night after night, feeling it to be real, feeling it to be natural. I didn't question how it would happen. I didn't worry about the steps needed to make it happen. I simply lived in the end, enjoying the feeling of it being done. And here I stand before you tonight, living proof that the law works. The secret was in completely relaxing into the consciousness of the wish fulfilled and trusting that the law must operate according to my assumption. Now let me address something that many struggle with, the appearance of circumstances that seem to contradict your desire. Remember this, what you see in the outer world is only the shadow of past thoughts and assumptions. It has no power to prevent your new assumption from materializing. When doubts arise, and they will, simply return to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Don't fight the doubts. Don't struggle against them. Simply turn your attention back to the feeling of having what you desire. This is what it means to trust. Think of it this way: when you go to the theater to watch a play, you see various scenes unfold on the stage. Some may be tragic, some may be comic. But you remain relaxed in your seat because you know it's just a play. In the same way, learn to watch the scenes of your life unfold with the same detachment, knowing that your imagination is the author and finisher of your story. The key to relaxation and trust lies in this profound understanding. There is nothing to change but your assumptions about yourself and your world. When you change your assumptions, when you change what you believe to be true about yourself and your world, the outer picture must change to conform to your new assumption. Let me give you a practical technique for maintaining this relaxed state of trust. Throughout your day, whenever you notice yourself becoming tense or worried, pause and ask yourself, what am I imagining right now? You'll find that your tension and worry are always connected to negative imagining. Then, consciously choose to imagine something better. Remember, you are not trying to change the outer world directly. You are changing your inner assumption, and the outer world must follow. This, my dear friends, is the secret of relaxation and trust. It's not about making things happen. It's about assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled and allowing the law to operate in its own perfect way and time. Before we conclude tonight's lecture, let me remind you of these essential truths. You are God individualized as you. Your imagination creates reality. What you assume to be true will harden into fact. The outer world must conform to your inner assumptions. Relaxation and trust are natural when you understand these truths. Go forth tonight and test this law. Choose something you desire to experience. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Feel the naturalness of having what you want. Then relax and trust that what you have assumed must manifest. Let me share with you another personal experience that illustrates this principle beautifully. Many years ago, when I was in Barbados, I met a man who was constantly worried about his business. He would come to me day after day, his face lined with concern, telling me about all the things that could go wrong. I said to him, my friend, do you know what you are doing? You are imagining the very things you fear, and therefore bringing them into your experience. I taught him what I'm teaching you tonight, that relaxation comes from the complete acceptance of your own wonderful human imagination as God. I told him, instead of imagining failure, why not imagine success? Instead of feeling tension about your business, why not feel the satisfaction of a thriving enterprise? You see, my dear wonderful friends, the secret lies in this. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret of creation. When you trust your imagination completely, When you relax into the consciousness of your desire fulfilled, you are exercising your divine creative power. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. This is not merely a poetic passage from Scripture. It is a profound spiritual truth. The lily doesn't struggle to become a lily. It doesn't strive or worry. It simply unfolds according to its nature. You too must learn to unfold naturally into your desires. This is what true relaxation means. It means knowing with absolute conviction that what you have assumed in your imagination must objectify itself in your world. Let me give you another technique that I have found particularly powerful. I call it the state akin to sleep. Find a comfortable place where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and allow your body to relax completely. Now, in this state of physical relaxation, begin to feel yourself into the scene that would imply your desire is already fulfilled. For instance, if you desire a loving relationship, feel yourself being embraced by your perfect partner. Feel the warmth of their love. Feel the joy of sharing your life with someone who adores you. Make it real in your imagination. Feel it until it feels natural. Remember, my dear friends, you are not trying to make something happen in the future. You are acknowledging what is already true in the eternal now of imagination. This is why trust is so essential. You must trust that what you have imagined is already done. Let me share with you a letter received from a lady in San Francisco. She had been struggling with chronic illness for years. After attending my lectures, she began to apply this principle of relaxation and trust. Instead of fighting against her condition, she would spend time each day feeling the naturalness of perfect health. She wrote to me, Neville, I finally understand what you mean by living in the end. I no longer pray for health. I live from the assumption of being healthy. I no longer beg God for healing. I accept that I am already whole and perfect in my imagination. Within months, her health transformed completely. The doctors were amazed, but she understood the law at work. You see, my dear friends, this is the pattern shown on the mount. This is how creation works. Now, let me address something that many of you struggle with, the time gap between your imaginal act and its physical manifestation. Remember this. Time is not a factor in the fulfillment of your desire. The only time that matters is how long it takes you to feel natural in the state of your wish fulfilled. When you truly relax and trust, you don't concern yourself with when or how. You simply live in the end, knowing that the bridge of incidents will form itself. Your only responsibility is to remain faithful to your imaginal act. Think about this: when you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You trust the laws of nature to bring forth your harvest. The same principle applies to your imaginal acts. Once you have planted the seed in your imagination, trust that it must grow. Let me share another technique I call revision. At the end of each day, before you sleep, review the events that didn't go as you would have liked. In your imagination, revise them. See them happening the way you would have preferred. Feel the satisfaction of these revised events. This practice accomplishes two things. First, it prevents unwanted seeds from taking root in your consciousness. Second, it strengthens your ability to consciously create your reality. Remember, my dear friends, the universe is infinitely responsive to your consciousness. It must be, for the universe is nothing more than your own wonderful human imagination pushed out. When you truly understand this, relaxation and trust become your natural state. I want to share with you a profound truth that many miss. The state of relaxation and trust is not something you achieve, it is something you allow. It is your natural state when you recognize your true identity as God individualized. Consider this: does God worry about how things will work out? Does God struggle to make things happen? Of course not. God simply speaks the word, knowing it must be fulfilled. And you, being God individualized, have the same creative power. Let me give you another exercise to deepen your understanding of this truth. Throughout your day, whenever you say "I am," pause and remember that you are speaking the name of God. Feel the power of this awareness. Feel the absoluteness of it. When you say, I am wealthy, you are not making a statement about your current bank balance. You are declaring the truth about your being in the realm of imagination, which is the only reality. My dear friends, the secret of relaxation and trust lies in this complete acceptance of your own divine nature. When you truly know that you are the operant power, all anxiety falls away naturally. Think of it this way: the sun doesn't worry about whether it will shine tomorrow. It simply shines because that is its nature. In the same way, when you accept your divine nature, creation becomes effortless. You create because that is your nature. Let me share one more personal experience. Years ago, when I desired to travel and lecture across the country, I didn't worry about how it would happen. I didn't make endless plans and strategies. Instead, I would lie in my bed at night and feel the satisfaction of speaking to packed auditoriums. I would feel the joy of sharing these truths with eager listeners. I remained faithful to this imaginal act, trusting that the law must work. And here I stand before you tonight, living proof that what you imagine with feeling must objectify itself in your world. Remember this: the outer world is a shadow, a reflection of your inner assumptions. When you change your assumptions, when you change what you believe to be true, the outer world must change to reflect your new consciousness. This is why relaxation is so crucial. When you truly relax, you stop trying to make things happen in the outer world. Instead, you focus on maintaining the feeling of your wish fulfilled in your imagination, knowing that the outer world must conform to your inner assumption. Trust, my dear friends, is not about believing in an external power. Trust is the absolute knowing that your imagination creates reality. It is the conviction that what you have assumed in your imagination must manifest in your physical world. As we conclude tonight's lecture, I want you to take this truth home with you. You are not a helpless being at the mercy of external circumstances. You are God Himself individualized as you, with all the creative power that implies. Tonight, when you return to your homes, choose something you desire to experience. It can be something small or something significant. Then, as you prepare for sleep, assume the feeling that would be yours if your desire were already fulfilled. Fall asleep in this consciousness. Trust that while you sleep, the law is working to bring about the circumstances necessary for the fulfillment of your desire. For remember, man's eyes are blind to the reality of a thing until imagination has brought it into focus. Go now in peace, knowing that you are the author of your own story. Relax into your divine nature and trust in the perfect operation of the law, for this is the truth that sets you free. Remember, the world is yourself pushed out. Therefore, relax completely into the consciousness of your wish fulfilled and watch as your world transforms to match your inner assumption. Thank you and good night.
You're listening to Inner Guidance Channel.
You will find tonight very practical, and yet I assure you very, very spiritual. Christianity has to be continually redeemed from secular history, for Jesus Christ is the human imagination. As Paul tells us in his first letter to the Corinthians, we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit which is from God, that we might understand the gifts bestowed upon us by God. Now tonight, we'll show you one of these gifts, if you really understand who Jesus Christ is. I tell you, He is your own wonderful human imagination. That is Christ. It comes as a shock when you first hear it. If you were raised in the tradition as the speaker was. I was raised in a Christian home, and naturally, like hundreds of millions of Christians, we were taught it as a secular history. A little boy who was born of a woman who knew not a man, and that his father was God, and he was the Son of God. And that was the story as I was taught it. But I was searching and seeking from the time I think I can remember. I believed the story as Mother taught it to me. I did believe it, and I can't tell anyone the shock that was mine, and sometimes maybe I wondered if it would not have been better to turn back, like Israel in the desert, and go back into slavery. But I couldn't, any more than they could. They had to keep moving towards the promised land. For when you are disillusioned, having been taught the story as we all have been taught it, to discover that he is not something in history. He is nearer than your breathing. In fact, he can't even be near. He is your very self. He is your own wonderful human imagination. It comes as quite a shock. I can tell it best by telling you a story. The year was 1933. Roosevelt was elected. I had been in this country for 11 years. I never really wanted to go back to Barbados. My parents came up in that year, and they pleaded with me to come to Barbados and join the family, become a member of the family, and I declined. I said no. I saw them off at the boat, and strangely enough, as they sailed, and they were on the deck, and I waved goodbye to them, a peculiar feeling came over me, and I had a desire that I had never had in 11 years to go to Barbados. I had just said goodbye to them, and said no to their request. They would have paid all expenses and brought me back, and everything would have been perfect. Then from the boat, I went to my old friend Abdullah. He was born, so I am told, in Ethiopia. He was a black man, raised in the Jewish faith, but really understood Christianity as few men that I ever met understood it. He understood the law, not the promise. He understood the law. So I went to him, and I told him the feeling that came over me that I wanted to go to Barbados. I had just waved at my parents, and a peculiar feeling possessed me. And he said to me, "You are in Barbados." Well, that did not make sense to me. I am standing in his place on 72nd Street, off Central Park West. That's where he lived. He lived at 30 West 72nd Street. And here I am in his place, and he's telling me that I am in Barbados. He didn't explain what he meant. So as the days went by, I said to him, "Ab, I am no nearer to Barbados than I was when I spoke to you." And he said to me, "If you are in Barbados, you cannot discuss the means of getting to Barbados. You must actually live in Barbados in your imagination, as though you were there, just as if, and view the world from Barbados. If you sleep in Barbados and view the world from Barbados, the means will appear, and you will go to Barbados. But as far as I am concerned, you are already in Barbados, because you desired it with intensity. All you had to do was simply to enter it. And you enter it now in New York City, even though it is 2,000 miles across water. And you aren't going to walk across water. But you enter Barbados and view the world from it. If you see the world from Barbados, then you have to be in Barbados." He did not explain to me then, but I learned later that man, being all imagination, man is wherever he is in imagination, and imagination is the God in man. That is the eternal body of the Lord Jesus Christ, and all things are possible to him, and by him all things were made, and without him was not anything made that was made. That what is now proven was once only imagined. These things I did not know then. He simply talked in the overall picture. But I did my best, and I slept mentally in Barbados in my mother's home. I looked at the world and saw it from Barbados. I looked at the world and saw it from Barbados. I saw New York City 2,000 miles to the north of me. Northwest, for we are at a certain latitude 13. North. New York is 42 north. We are the 59th longitude. New York is the 74th. So I saw it northwest, as I could imagine it. I heard the tropical noises. We call this land tropical. It really isn't tropical in the really true sense of the word. When you go into the tropics, it's something entirely different. And I was born in the tropics, almost on the equator. It's an entirely different odor. Sunsets go like this. You look at the sun, and the sun disappears suddenly. A ball of red light becomes green. You are looking at the sun, and suddenly, in the matter of a split second, you are seeing a green sun. You are seeing the complement of red. So, we have no twilights in Barbados. The sun goes down rapidly from a red ball to a green ball, and you see the green ball. So the whole atmosphere differs. Well, I put myself into that, and felt that my mother and father were in their room, and that my brothers, those who were not yet married, were in the house. It's a huge, big old home of ours, and there I slept. This was now late October. When it came to the end of November, I said to Ab, Ab, I am no nearer Barbados. He said, You are in Barbados. Then he turned his back on me, walked towards his bedroom, and slammed the door, which was not an invitation to follow him, if you understood Ab. He was teaching me a lesson, the lesson of faith. If I am actually sleeping in Barbados, no power in the world could interfere with my journey to Barbados. This is now late November. The last ship out of New York City, sailing for Barbados, was the 6th of December. I wanted to get there by Christmas, and so I could not raise the question anymore. But on the morning of the 4th or the 3rd of December, I got a letter from my brother Victor. I did not ask him or any member of my family to bring me to Barbados. He wrote a letter and justified the contents in this manner. He said, We are, a large family, 9 brothers and a sister. We have never been united around our Christmas table at Christmas since we were a family, for there was an interval between my sister Daphne and the last 2 boys of 8 years. By that time, my oldest brother had left for Demerara in British Guiana, and by then, when he came back, my brother Lawrence went off to McGill to study medicine, and we were always moving around. But this time, everyone was present but yours truly. And he said, I am enclosing a small little draft, $50. But in 1933, when there were 17.5 million unemployed, and we didn't have 204 million citizens, we only had 120-odd million. It was an enormous thing. If you were old enough to know it, may I tell you, it was really a horror. Well, I was numbered among the unemployed. So he knew that I could come if the terms were there, that I had my passage paid. So he enclosed a $50 draft to buy a suit. Well, you could buy a suit in those days for $12, $10. You could buy a pair of shoes, McCann shoes, for $3 So I went down to the steamship company because in the letter he said, I've notified the company to issue you a ticket. Then with the $50 you buy what you need for the trip and then sign the chips. And when the ship comes in, I will meet the ship and pay all the things that you have incurred, all the debts. So, when I went down to the ship company, they said to me, I am sorry, Mr. Goddard, but I do not have a first-class passage for you. We can accommodate you third class. You have the first-class accommodation for meals, and you can have all the other areas of first class. But for sleeping, you have to move into the third class. I said, That's perfectly all right with me. I'll take it. I went back to Abdullah and I told him, Do you know what he did when I said, I am going third class to Barbados, but I have the accommodations of the first for the daylight hours? He said, Who told you you're going third class? You are already in Barbados, and you went first class. Again, he closed the door on me. I went down to the ship the morning it sailed, on the 6th of December, and the ticket agent said to me, Mr. Goddard, I have good news for you. We have a cancellation, and now you can go first class, but you will share it with 2 others. There are 3 in the cabin. That is perfectly all right with me. So I went down first class. Abdullah said to me, You know, Neville, when you return from Barbados, you will have died. He never explained a statement of that nature. You will have died. I am coming back from Barbados, but I will have died. He spoke in these cryptic manners. Well, I did. I went down to Barbados. I was a strict vegetarian. I had not eaten 1 piece of meat or fish or fowl in 7 years. No smoking, no alcohol, no sex. Disillusioned in my first marriage, and the whole thing was simply, I became a celibate. I came back from Barbados, and in Barbados, I was the same being that I was when I arrived, to the annoyance of my family, for they made all their money in groceries, selling meat, fish, alcohol, everything. And I am enjoying a trip based upon their efforts. And yet, I am not taking what they are offering. On my way north, I did everything I had not done in 7 years. He was right. I died. That state of consciousness died. That's what died. Neville is the immortal being. That is, the inner man is immortal. I was locked in a state. The state I departed from. So, as far as I am concerned, I died to that state. You see, life is nothing more than a hunger. This whole vast world is a hunger, and there are unnumbered states of consciousness from which you and I can view the world to satisfy that hunger. So we get out of one state into another state, and we do it in the same way I went to Barbados, sleeping physically in New York City. In my imagination, I slept in Barbados, and my brother was